Here. Victoria Court, here. Karen Wilson. Here. Ellen Jimenez. Here. David Jamal.
And if we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have public participation and recognition. Item A, acceptance of gifts and donations. This is an action item that the Board of Education accept with gratitude the donation of $1,400 from the NIU Mortar Board to Tyler Elementary School, which will be used to purchase books focusing on multicultural and diverse titles for the school's library. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Roll call?
Jeff Algren.
Yes.
Samantha McDavid.
Yes.
Sarah Moses. Yes. Victoria Court.
Yes.
Jeremy Wilson.
Yes.
Valerie Tanya Hernandez.
Yes.
David Teason.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Item B, recognition of the Student Services Department. The Board of Education will recognize the Student Service Department for receiving an overall Illinois State Board of Education determination of meets requirements for the 2017-18 school year. This designation is given to districts that have implemented all the requirements of IDEA with integrity. ISB reviews 6 indicators of performance, completes an IDEA grant audit, and reviews any compliance corrections in determining our designation. Congratulations.
Thank you. So this designation meets requirements we're very, very proud of, and it really represents our whole team and of student services, because it takes a huge team to ensure that we're meeting compliance not only thoroughly but on time. So I thank our student service department for all their efforts to make that possible.
Thank you. Thank you.
Item C, public comment. Members of the public who wish to speak to the board should complete a request card prior to the meeting. This section of the meeting will be reserved for comments from the public. All comments should be limited to 3 minutes. Criticism of individuals is not in order. We have one comment by Howard Solomon on the destruction of closed meeting recordings.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Howard Solomon, and I served a full term as board member ending April 30th. During my time as a board member, I raised the issue several times in closed session that the destruction of closed session verbatim tapes served only to reduce the record of discussion while really producing no benefit. What we wound up with and what would stay in the record after the destruction of the verbatim recordings is the board secretary's summary. I don't want to disparage the board secretary. He's a wonderful person, but a summary is necessarily considerably shorter and leaves out a lot of things, some of which may be important. For instance, you might remember that the Mueller report is 440 pages long and was summarized in 4 pages. Those 4 pages left out considerable amounts of the content. We don't want to do, or at least I don't think you as a board want to do the same thing here. We are looking at in item 5D, you have the opportunity to destroy a full year's worth of records. And if you do destroy a full year's worth of records, you're doing roughly what Attorney General Barr did to the Mueller report, except that there's no way to retrieve it, doing it a little more effectively. If the contents of those meetings are reduced as recommended, you'll have the same potential to have inadvertently obstructed justice as what the Attorney General just did. The support material for going ahead with the destruction comes from Board Policy 2220, which declares that verbatim recordings are destroyed. But the school code section of the support material that goes right along with it tells us that the verbatim recordings may be destroyed 18 months after they were produced. No earlier than 18 months. It does not say that the destruction is mandated. Their destruction is not mandated, and I also believe their destruction is not advisable. You may be saying that the advice of attorneys present at those meetings was to reduce liability by destroying these records. But that's what you feel like if you take this advice. Keep on going to me because I keep on thinking of myself in another chair there. But if we as you take this advice, you should be aware that its greater impact is to reduce the liability of the attorneys who advised you about it in the first place. They're the ones who were at the meeting, and they're the ones whose advice you have followed.
Dr. Solomon, I'm sorry, your time is up.
Thank you.
There are no more. Item D, board committee reports and correspondence. We have some Board of Education committee assignments. And I try to honor at least some of your preferences. If you have any questions, you can call or email me. And the only thing that's not reflected on here, I just want to make a public statement. Ms. Newport has decided to not continue representing the board in negotiations, and so I will take that responsibility. And now we're going to the non-business consent agenda. It's an action item that the Board of Education approve the non-business consent agenda items A through I. Is there a motion?
Motion to remove item D from the non-business consent agenda.
Is there a second? Roll call?
Are we,
We don't,
Oh,
we have a first and a second, so now we.
Oh, we have discussion, right?
If there's any discussion, or we just approve items A through I without D.
So we just, okay, so that the Board of Education approve the non-business consent agenda items A through I, excluding item D. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
second?
Roll call?
David,
Yes.
Sarah Moses,
Yes.
Victoria Newport,
Yes.
Jeremy Olson,
Yes.
Bella Penny Hernandez,
Yes.
David Seymour,
Yes.
Jeff Hall.
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve the destruction, or item D, the destruction of closed session recordings?
Motion to table.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Sarah Moses,
Yes.
Victoria Newport,
Yes.
Jeremy Olson,
Yes.
Bella Penny Hernandez.
Yes.
David Seymour,
Yes.
Jeff Algren,
Yes.
Cynthia McPhail.
Yes. Number 6, business consent agenda. This is an action item that the Board of Education approve the business consent agenda items A through D. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Roll call?
Victoria Newport,
Yes.
Jeremy Olson,
Yes.
Bella Penny Hernandez.
Yes.
David Seymour,
Yes.
Jeff Algren,
Yes.
Samantha McDavid,
Yes.
Sarah Moses.
Yes.
Number 7, business and finance. Item A, this is a discussion and information item. Regional Office of Education inspection results. Ms. Cammie Carson.
Each year, I bring forth the inspection results from the Regional Office of Education. We are required as a school district to be inspected by the office as well as the Illinois State Fire Marshal or a representative from the Fire Marshal's office through the local fire departments. And typically our inspections happen in December. We like to have them over winter break when there's less disruption to the classroom. And so this past December, we had our results, our inspections completed. In front of you are the results from each of the buildings. I'm very proud to say our department worked very hard to reduce the number of violations in regards to fire code and the violations regarding that are cited by the Regional Office of Education. And we have a lot of support from the building administration and central administration in upholding those standards and holding our staff to that. And we have 3 buildings this year that had 0 violations in the buildings, which to the point typically the superintendent comes back from the Regional Office of Education and questions when there are 0 violations reported by her office, because it is so unlikely to happen. But again, I really attest that to the staff and the custodial staff and the teaching staff administration that really keep on those and make sure they're keeping the code at all times. So unless there's other questions, the results are in front of you. We'll continue to work on the violations we do have to look to prevent some of them in the upcoming years.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tammy.
Section 8, new business administration. Item A, intensive math materials adoption for grades 4 through 8. Ms. Christy Meyer, and this is a discussion and information item.
Good evening. So I want to tell you a little bit about the work that a team of intensive level teachers have been doing for this last year in order to come to this point and report out to you about a selection of intensive math materials. So the intensive math program, this is for 4th through 8th grade. The population that we're talking about here this evening are students with IEPs. These are in self-contained. That means that there's up to only 13 in the classroom with an additional assistant, and it is taught by a special education teacher. The students all have needs in that area of academics, in some sort of academic area that requires an alternative curriculum to meet those needs, okay? We went through a thorough process. First and foremost, the reason we're here to talk about math for intensive is because the program that we were using, which was called Math Triumph, unfortunately is out of print. So that prompted us to go forth and look and research some other alternative math curriculums. And first we did some research as to what is out there today, what would be good practice, best practice for students, in particular students with specific learning disabilities in mathematics. And from there, as it says there, we reviewed the Council for Learning, the interventions that they had recommended, and then we chose from those 4 different publishers, 4 different materials for us to take a closer look at. Thank you. So in the end, after having those companies come and tell us more about their product and go through the products ourselves, then we decided for 4th and 5th grade intensive math, a program called Do the Math. And it's by Midland. The reason they really liked this program was it's very hands-on. The students, particularly at that grade school level, the elementary level, really benefit from getting their hands in and working through the problems. And these materials come with a lot of manipulatives to do that, as well as giving students more of a pictorial picture, a visual picture of what math means, the concept of math. And so this is why our 4th and 5th grade intensive teachers chose this program. The materials and subscription that is needed, nice piece about this, it's not only a lot of math materials, but it does have an online component as well. And many teacher resources as well as student resources. We found it a very thoroughly presented the concepts, gave lots of pre-teaching, gave lots of practice, and a lot of reteaching opportunities. And again, that's why we determined it was the best product for us to bring forth to you this evening. Overall, overall, the cost of that program will be, it said there around $18,000. Yes,
What does that buy us? What does $18,000 buy?
all that you see there.
I understand that. For how many students?
Thank you. Well, very good question. It was planned for at most 26. We are finding our numbers are growing in this population in our 5th grade intensive. We just had several IEP meetings and those numbers are growing. But this was costed out for what we anticipated, which was at most 26. Because right now we have one 4th grade class, one 5th grade class, and they can only go up to 13 each.
Does that buy a book? Does it buy an online presence? Does it, I mean, what is
It buys all of it. It buys the teacher materials, it buys the student materials, and it buys the online subscription.
And the manipulative.
And the manipulatives, yes, ma'am,
Thank you.
absolutely. Then 6 through 8. Now, ideally, when we went into this process, we thought to ourselves, boy, wouldn't it be great to have a continuity throughout 4th through 8th? But what our teachers, after diving into the materials and the different programs, had decided was that our needs were different at the elementary age than at the middle school age for mathematics. And so we went ahead and agreed to look at 2 different programs, and our 6th through 8th grade preferred Number Worlds by McGraw-Hill Education. Again, the reason they liked it, one, it did align well with, they can see it aligning well with our Common Core state standards and where students should be, okay? And they also saw that it hit those key components that they know that their non-disabled peers are doing in their grade level material. It also just focuses on those critical standards, what you really need to know to go on, okay? It also gave a lot of pre-teaching, practice, and reteaching opportunities. Those are crucial for a student who has a specific learning disability to have that pre-teaching, practice, and reteaching opportunities.
Simple question.
Yes, sir.
When you're doing these negotiations of these folks, do they give you a time frame that they'll be in print? Or before they're obsolete? Because I mean, that seemed to be the reason we're making this change in the first place, and I noticed this copyright's a couple years older than the other one, so.
Yes.
Is that something you're looking at?
I did not ask that question. But in the scope of special ed, okay, we don't have as many products to choose from as you do in general ed. I think bilingual ed is even less. And so I appreciate that you looked at the copyright. I was thrilled that it was 2015.
Okay.
Because typically we're looking at much earlier copyright. So, but thank you for thinking that and having that foresight, for sure. As you see here, again, I mentioned that. Another key component that this had was vocabulary. What trips up so many of our students, general ed and students with IEPs, is the vocabulary, that mathematical vocabulary, and this did a real nice job of bringing it to life for our students. Thank you, Lisa. These are the materials that we would get for our students and our teachers to teach Number Worlds. As you can see there, it comes with a lot of great stuff that we can use. Again, the manipulatives, and this also has an online component as well that the teachers were glad to see. Again, I think special ed is coming along in their educational materials to include that online component. That would be the cost, just under 20,000.
Pardon my ignorance, I don't teach at that level, or I don't have an understanding of it.
No, it's
What's
okay.
the manipulative? Is it
Oh.
handheld?
Yes,
So
something you can
handheld
hold on to.
device?
Anything. It could be blocks, it could be, counters, it could be, you know, when you're studying geometry and you have the actual spheres and so forth that you can hold on to, that's a manipulative.
Thank you.
And don't feel bad about that. That comes up when you're typing it in. It comes and has a little squiggle line. Like, what are you talking about?
I don't use them in my class.
Right.
Oh, I do.
Well, you do. You just don't call it a manipulative.
They're phones.
There you go. There you go. That's digital manipulative.
That's their manipulative.
So, those are our two programs that we're recommending to you, and I wondered if you had any questions about them. Any other questions?
Again, number of students, do we have a number of students on that?
Sure. We are also growing in this population. We had to add another intensive class at the 6th grade level going into next year. So that would make, 60, 80, about 80 to 100.
And these guys are flexible? I mean, in other words, the materials are flexible to whatever number that would be, and in other words, they figured that price at around 80 units?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and this covers 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and respectively, they have different.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
These materials will be on display for 30 days and brought back at our June 28th meeting
Yes.
for final approval.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you want to ask me?
You have consent to bring that back. to the next one. And, item B, 2019-2020 position FTE increase request, Ms. Sarah Body. This is an action item that the Board of Education approve the position increase request as identified on the attached summary. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second? Okay. Discussion? No? Okay, roll call?
Jeremy Olson,
Yes.
Valerie Penny Hernandez.
Yes.
David Seymour, Jeff Albrecht,
Yes.
Samantha McDavid,
Yes.
Sarah Moses.
Yes.
Victoria Newport.
Yes.
Subject C, instructional materials adoption proposal for Code HS, Dr. Vicky Tuskin, Mr. Ben Vale, and Mr. Michael Lofthouse. This is an action item that the Board of Education approve the purchase of Code HS for the 2019-2020 school year. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Discussion? Roll call?
Valerie Penny Hernandez,
Yes.
David Seymour,
Yes.
Jeff Albrecht,
Yes.
Samantha McDavid,
Yes.
Sarah Moses.
Yes.
Victoria Newport,
Yes.
Jeremy Olson.
Yes.
Subject D, school-wide Title I plans for elementary and middle schools. Dr. Jenny Huber, Ms. Kimberly Lyle, and Dr. Vicky Tuskin. This is an action item that the Board of Education approve the K through 8 Title I plans as attached. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
David Seymour,
Yes.
Jeff Albrecht,
Yes.
Samantha McDavid,
Yes.
Sarah Moses.
Yes.
Victoria Newport,
Yes.
Jeremy Olson,
Yes.
Valerie Penny Hernandez.
Subject E, recommended revisions to Board of Education policies, second reading and possible approval. Superintendent Jamie Craven. This is an action item that the Board of Education approve the recommended revisions to school board policies from the Illinois Association of School Boards as attached. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Jeff Albrecht,
Yes.
Samantha McDavid,
Yes.
Sarah Moses,
Yes.
Victoria Newport,
Yes.
Jeremy Olson,
Yes.
Valerie Penny Hernandez,
Yes.
David Seymour.
Yes.
And number 9, adjournment. The meeting will be adjourned. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Yes.